Good morning. Good morning. Are we live? Good morning, everybody. I'm back from an amazing event. And hello. I'm back. Here I am. Here we are. Fame. We're back from Brockville. And I have stuff to tell you. It was just really cool. But just give me 1 second. I need to click on the other screen, okay? Meantime, Fame. All right, here we go. We go up into this over to this other screen, which is over here, and we refresh. Unplug there, yes. All right. Oh, and there she is. All righty then, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what to say really about Brockville, except that it was just there. Hello. Oh, that's better. All right. Brockville was a first-time event for the town. They'd never had a fan con, and they are a smaller town than Cornwall, and certainly a significantly smaller town than Ottawa, and so fewer people coming out, and the weather was a little bipolar. So people were a little hesitant, which is to be expected in this time of we're just getting back on our feet and we're not really sure which foot to lean in with, right? That's perfectly normal. Um, and there were just some lovely, lovely moments that quite take your breath away. So what I wanted to talk about today was a couple of aha. If Garen is watching, I have to be careful. Good morning, Steve. Okay, so in case oh, apparently I'm not. I'm going to click another. There we go. Okay, so here was takeaway. The takeaway was that everyone had no idea what to expect. And at the same time, everyone was optimistic. They were kind of keen and looking forward, as opposed to, oh, I don't know about that. That looks new and different. They weren't like that at all. The big aha was they were ready for something. We got there the day before because load-in was at dark 30. And so went out, had a bite to eat at a local pub, and then we, got some early sleep. And the people at the pub were, so what is going on? All these people are coming. They really had no idea unless they were involved, which I think is, I'm going to, there. I think that's the case, really, when you moment or your whatever, you're eating it and you're breathing it and you're sleeping it, and it's at the front of your mind 24/7. It's really easy to forget that for other people it's not. Good morning, Garen. It's a wake-up call that everybody isn't thinking what we're thinking, when what we're thinking is the only thing we've been thinking. It's a real eye-opener when you realize that people have a whole other set of stuff going on in their heads, and you're just a blip on the radar by accident. The fellow at the pub, so what, my name is Thing and I'm going to be your server today, and he had no clue what all these people were doing. All of a sudden it was really busy early on a Saturday night. Why is that? What's going on? And so we told him, and he was Phil. not not entirely convinced that why would they be here? I mean, why are they here? Couldn't connect that the celebrities have come to support the event that allows them to engage with the fans. And the event is thrilled to have the celebrities because it creates a buzz, it creates a conversation. When people come in and say, oh my gosh, look who it is. And then they're all excited and now they're curious and they're going to stay longer and browse and shop and find out what else is going on. Because once they come out of their little shell, they're excited. And they weren't excited before that. So for our server at the restaurant, he was kind of like, are you pulling my leg? And when I said, oh, there's going to be a lot of celebrities, and he said, name one. And I said, well, have you ever heard of the Care Bears? And he said, Care Bears? Well, they're not going to be here. They're cartoons. And I said, you've heard of the Care Bears, though? He said, oh, yeah, when I was a kid, I watched them. And I said, so who was your favorite bear? And he said, oh, I don't remember. I was a kid. And I said, okay, so did you ever hear Friend Bear, the little bear with 2 sunflowers on his tummy? And he said, oh, yeah, he was a goof. And Good Morning, Lyle. And so I said, okay, so Friend Bear sounded like this. And then, so in a restaurant, crowd with people, I'm suddenly saying, this looks like a job for Friend Bear, and Abby wants a glass of wine. He just, his whole brain kind of went zert. And he said, how do you know how to do that? And I said, because I voiced Friend Bear. He said, no. I said, sure. The Care Bears were made in Ottawa. No. Yeah. How do you know that? I said, were you sick a few minutes ago and away when I said I voiced the Care Bears? And then he looks at the people I'm with and says, is she kidding? Is she pulling my leg? No. Huh. And he walked away. He didn't say, oh my gosh, it's a pleasure to meet you, and oh, this and that and the other thing. No, it was completely out of his ability to connect his reality with something he saw on television. He could not make the transition from spectator to participant. I said, you should come by. It's tomorrow afternoon. What else are you doing? Well, it's my day off. What? I said, well, if it's your day off, you could come and meet celebrities and look at the cool toys and stuff. Yeah, right. Anyway, I'll get your wine. And, and I turned to the people I'm with and I said, so sad to be so jaded so young. I'm completely incapable of taking that step to say people in show business are real people. Some of them like wine. Some of them can surprise the living daylights out of you if you're not careful. He couldn't do it. And I found that to be a real grin thing. And I shared it with the other people. When we checked in and I'm standing at the desk and the guy says, and could you answer yes or no, please? And I said, okay, what's the question? And he said, does your credit card end in the number blah, 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 blah? And I said, oh my God, it does. I said, can you also tell me my height above sea level? And the other person at the front desk who was checking stuff burst out laughing. She said, oh my God, that's a good one. I said, you can have it free of charge. And she comes over and looks over his shoulder and looks at my name and says, you're Abby Haggard. And I said, oh, well, you cheated, though. You looked at the page. And she said, no, but you're here for the show, right? I said, yeah. And she's grinning. And then she turned to the guy and she said, she's a celebrity. And I said, hi. And he said, hi. And the guy waiting behind me said, when you do these shows, do they provide free wine? And I turned around and I said to him, would you like a job as my manager? And all of a sudden, I had three people having a conversation with somebody they didn't entirely see as real. Of course I'm real, but as long as you're on the other side of this thing, the television, or you're up there on the concert stage and I'm over here, there's this dividing line. And what it does is it creates, hi Charles, what it does is it creates a barrier. It causes people to feel that who they and and who we are kind of a different species. And when you have something going on, like trying to get back to normal from lockdowns and lost jobs, and I'll tell you something that I noticed really more clearly at this event than the previous ones, was that people were more subdued. Now, it could be because it was the first time, and it could be because it was raining and then not raining, and it could be all kinds of reasons. But they were more subdued. They were more hesitant and kind of smiling tentatively, as opposed to, running at you and saying, oh my God. And as they stayed longer, because they would make a circuit, and it was a smaller venue, and there were fewer people, and all of it's great. All of it as a first show is great. As they relaxed, they started. They weren't walking around strutting it and owning it, but they were feeling, because they'd been to this little convention center before for some reason, so they stopped thinking of it as, strange people in here, and they were starting to have a good time. And after that, so the doors opened at 10, and from 10 until 11 at these events, it's VIP. You pay a little extra money, and it means you get to come in first. You get first crack at the valuable collectibles, because usually the really valuable ones, there's a limited number, right? Limited edition. And so the real rabid fans are always right there at the door to come in and see what they can nab first. And then 11 o'clock, the rest of the world comes in. And usually around mid-afternoon, they do a cosplay contest. And for those of you who don't do these events, people who come dressed as their favorite characters from their favorite shows are costume players. They are role-playing, and they dress in the role. And these events always have a parade and a contest for cosplayers to be recognized. And our fabulous showrunner, Lance Moran, does this contest, and the grand prize is you get a free booth at his event next year as the winning cosplayer. And you have pictures that you've signed, and people come and talk to you because you've become a celebrity. So what Lance does, you see, is he brings you through the keyhole. And you show up, you go to all the trouble to make a costume, and you wander around and you put your name in, it's free to do. And then you get this chance to be recognized for your love of the character who is your alter ego, and the show that you so closely identify with. So Garen is saying stars sometimes use the barrier to keep themselves safe, being in enforcement. I get behind that barrier and sometimes under their skin. Well, of course you do, Garen. That's nice. Security guard. Never let the security guard stand behind you is the lesson to be taken here, boys and girls. So at this event, we had a huge turnout of cosplayers. I don't have the numbers on the attendance, but we had, I'm going to say, 10% of the people who came. I'm going to go with 10%. 10% of the people who came were cosplayers, entered in the competition. It blew us away. Blew us away. And my booth, thank you, Lance, my booth was right beside the stage where Lance played music, but that's okay. And the announcements were made, and the practical jokes were staged. And all these people, he kept looking at me saying, where are they coming from? And that is a sign that people are excited for an opportunity to be seen and heard when that kind of thing happens. So the business about spectating is a two-way situation. As Garen said, quite often the celebrities like the separation between them and the fans because it gives them a feeling of safety, of distance, that the fans are there, but they're over there. And one of the reasons celebrities, especially the really big celebrities, one of the reasons they do that is because it's very easy to be overwhelmed by fans who feel that they are responsible for your success. They own you. Without the fans, everything we do is a rehearsal. And it's a really delicate situation because we want the fans to feel that they have a stake in this, because they do, and we want them to feel our gratitude, because we do have gratitude for them. We are very, very happy that they love us. Where it gets tricky is when the fans say, listen, I made you, see, and that can become awkward. That can become stalking. That can become people trespassing, really, over your personal boundaries. Personal boundaries as opposed to fame boundaries. Because once you're famous, who you are as a person kind of gets a bit iffy and hard to define. And the reason I talk about this a lot is not because I'm talking about me. I'm using me as the example because fame comes in all shapes and sizes. If you worked, let's say, at one of those coffee places where you can drive in and pick up a coffee or a tea or whatever, and let's say you did really well for the business and the customers really enjoyed you last month, and you earn Employee of the Month, and they have this plaque and they can slide your name in and they put it up on the wall for 30 days. Okay, so till the end of time, you were Employee of the Month for May 2022. And that's going to stay with you for a lot of people. Those who are envious or jealous are going to say, yeah, hey, nice parking job there, Employee of the Month. Hey, I waved at you, Employee of the Month. Too big now to say hello to your friends? Like, see? That's the downside of the recognition factor. Even though it's very small, it's still a recognition factor. And they've stopped thinking of you as Bob or Joanne, and they think of you as, must be nice, she's all that. And they're separating themselves from the reality of you because they can't connect the two. And one of the most obvious examples of this is the way people have behaved and felt they had permission to behave with first responders and people who are working with the public, just doing their job, airline attendants and greeters in stores and cashiers, and people coming in with their frustration about whatever is wrong in their world, taking it out on that guy at the door, that greeter. Well, the greeter's name is Henry, and he's a veteran, and he had to go all people, and we all have issues and stuff that we carry with us. Why a person would think they could say, hey, greeter, step it up there. What does that do? I'm not sure. I think it maybe makes them feel like just because you're a greeter doesn't mean that I'm not something. So this is, good morning, Eddie. This is the tricky part of the spectator sport element that I think is hugely important to fix. So I want to give you a couple of examples, and some of them were funny, and some of them were different in a way. So spectator sport example number one. My booth, as I said, was so stage middle, end of the room, middle, me to the right, and music playing, and a bunch of people, I'm going to say under 30, gravitating to the music and choosing to stand in front of my booth to kind of bop to it. So my photographer, dressed as Friend Bear, Miss Jessie, would go up to them and say, "I'm just dancing." And she said, "Yes, but you're blocking our booth." And they turned around and looked at the booth and they said, "So?" So I got up, all Viking mom, and I came over and I said, "Honey, how wonderful that you came to the event." Now, a lot of people also came to shop, and we put the booths up so that they can see the things they came to buy. So if you wouldn't mind, you're basically standing in my doorway. So let's go over here. And I kind of boogied over to where the music was, and I embarrassed them because I did the twist and I did it badly. The girl's rolling her eyes, and I said, "Listen, you're lucky. I'm not singing. Ask him." Lance, who said, "Don't make her sing. Don't let her sing." So I moved them along. And then I said to the girl, I said, "Listen, I need to ask you a question." She said, "What?" And I said, "Do you remember the Care Bears?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "You remember the Care Bears?" And she said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "I voiced them, 3 of them. I'm the voice of 3 Care Bears." She said, "No, you're not." And I said, "Oh, yes, I am." Lance says, "Oh, yes, she is." And now the girl had a problem, didn't she? Because she'd been rude to 3 Care Bears. And so she did what a lot of people do. She said, "Huh," and turned her back because she had nothing to bring that sounded like an apology. She was mortified, of course. So I just walked away because the end game for me was to get this group of 5 or 6 people away from directly in front of my booth so that the people circulating could say, "Oh my God, there she is," and come over and say hi. So that was the first thing. Watching a person, young, oh dear, I just sounded really old. Watching a person literally unable to be gracious. Unable to see. Karen says, "I would respond, 'May I have this dance?'" Well, of course you would. And that's tragic because she has no social skills to connect with people. Now, in fairness to her, these kinds of events are really welcoming and really safe places for people who struggle socially because it's a place where they still feel they can be a spectator the way they are at home when they're watching or they're playing the games. Which leads me to the next story that is 360 is a circle, 720 like loop-de-loop reversal. And it's one of half a dozen tear-worthy moments that happen at these events, and I live for them. There was an individual there with a service dog. Now, the fellow wasn't blind, and therefore, not blind means that the service dog was there for some is typically that the person is not comfortable in a social setting without the dog. And that means that the dog is their doorway, their keyhole, their portal to step out of the shadows, out of spectator, and participate, to join in the dance. The dog is their vehicle, their permission, their strength. And the dog, well trained, oh, this was a beautiful dog, it always positions themselves in front of their human partner, and is constantly alert and aware of the emotional signals that their human partner is transmitting through their hormones and whatnot. And this dog was lovely. And he came over and he was smiling. The human partner was smiling. And I said, "Would you like a picture?" And he said, "Yeah." So I said, "Come with me." And I didn't know, because it usually says on the saddle that the service dog is wearing, it usually says what the job is that the dog is doing. But the dog was facing that way, so I didn't see it. And really, it doesn't matter. What I do know is that you need to be very respectful of their space, because they are coming to a place that is not their normal coping mechanism, their normal environment. So I was wearing a black and white big foofy boa, and I said, "Would you like to wear a feather boa?" And he said, "Yeah." And so I got the lime green one, and I said, "May I?" And, "Oh yeah," because he wasn't letting go of the dog. They never let go of the leash. They always, because that's their rudder, that's their anchor, that's their safety. And he wasn't tense. He wasn't holding it like he was afraid. It's just they hold, and they hold it firmly, right? So I said, "If you bend your head," and he did, and so I put the boa on him, and he big grin, and so we stood to face the cameras, and I said, "Is it okay to give you a hug?" And he said, "Yeah, yeah." And so I did. So we were standing side by side, my boa, his boa, me smiling, and then he did this thing. If you can scroll back to, I think it's two images ago that I posted, and it's the picture of us together. I think I posted last night. It's his body language. We're there, and he's leaning his head on mine, and his smile is the smile of angels singing. And I didn't know, because I'm not staring at him to make sure I can see what he's doing, but I'm over the moon that he came. I'm over the moon, and you can tell in my expression, I'm over the moon that he wanted to engage, to connect, to have the picture, and that he was so open and so vulnerable and so just absolutely soaring Viking butterfly joy that he was in it, in this moment. And so we took the picture, and we had, I don't know, 3 or 4 pictures taken, a couple of people. And what I always do is, my photographers get the person's phone and take a picture, so they have the memory, and then we take 2 or 3 pictures for us to keep. And then, so all of that is the cake, is the main course, is the dessert, is the cake. And the cherry on the icing and the sparklers going off is that he stayed. And he a couple of times said, "I'll be back." And he went away to look at all the other things and came back. And each time he came back, he just smiled at me. And a couple of times he was standing off to the side, watching somebody else get their picture taken. And I thought, he is so ready and so willing and so filled with for doing the hard thing, for stepping outside his comfort zone. He's so prepared to pay the price because he knows the reward is so awesome. So the angry, disconnected young girls and this guy with a lot more to overcome and override just to achieve everybody else's normal. Night and day. Night and day. The other thing that was pretty cool, that I really enjoyed. She's going to kill me for this. Our fabulous cosplay celebrity guest, Kawaii Kitten, whose first name is Melissa, was staying in the same hotel. And I'd finished breakfast early, and I'm heading back to the elevators. The elevator door pings, and she's stepping out with her people. And she's in, I need a lot of coffee now, mode. And she says, "Hi, Abby." And I said, "Darling, you are the very picture of adrenaline rush. We need to get a picture of this sometime." And she said, "What?" Tee. Sucks to run into me when I've been already up for an hour and you just woke up. And then later at the event, she walks in and she just, it's amazing. And I said, "Oh, I see we changed." And she said, and she was swamped. She was jammed with people. She's a beautiful, beautiful person on the inside and out. She's gracious. She's welcoming. She's made it her, part-time life, her fame life, to do this, to go to these events. She has an online presence, and she's incredible. And we met a few fan cons ago, and she refers to me as Con Mom, Fanatic Con Mom. And so she came over to the booth, and I said, right at the very beginning, "Oi, picture." "Oh, yeah." Scampered over. And we got some pictures together. And I said, "Are you expecting a good crowd?" And she said, "I have no idea. You never know at these first-time events." But her booth was packed, as it should be, because she's gorgeous. Anyway, she came over to me during a break. Right after the cosplay contest, because she was one of the judges, obviously. She came over and she said, I want to ask you a favor. And I said, "Sure." And she said, "So I have a YouTube channel." "No, really?" and she said, "So I want to interview you. My boyfriend does the video." And I said, "Oh, absolutely." She said, "Yeah, okay, so here's the thing. When I'm interviewing you, would you do a Care Bears voice?" And I said, "Of course. Anything you like." "Really?" "Yeah, why not?" "Okay, great." And then she, beckoned him a few minutes later, and she came over, and she, spoke into the camera about, "Well, here we are, and this is my favorite, con mom. This is Abby Hedgard." And she said, "Mom, star of You Can't Have It on Television." And her boyfriend behind the video camera says, "What?" Now, you have a magic power when you can jolt the cameraman out of his spectator role from the other side of the camera. Brought him through the camera right in front of me. And Melissa was laughing. So then when she said, "So talk to me about the Care Bears. Tell me how that happened." And so, my favorite story about the Care Bears, well, all of the cartoons that we did, really, is that typically when it's a brand new series, the animators and the producers and the creator of the series, they have a profile, they have a kind of a backstory on the character, and they have ideas about how they feel the character should sound and behave, because your voice, they're not going to see you on camera, but your voice is lending animation to the animation. If the voice sounds sleepy, you're not going to have a little creature jumping around. And so one of the things that I really loved about the Care Bears experience, because I did 3 voices, was that when we talked about Friend Bear and they asked my opinion, and I said, my feeling is that Friend Bear is a little boy bear. And I think he's a very, very tiny superhero. I think he's very brave and very strong in his mind. And he's a white knight. He's a hero. And I said, but I also think he's clumsy and an optimist, because he's in a hurry to save you. And so the bear. And I said, so this kind of thing is going to be Care Bear as a boy. And they were grinning. And I said, and then, I'll save you. Oh, in a minute, I'm stuck. And they cracked up. They cracked up and said, oh God, because of course now they had so many more things they could do to animate the bear physically. And so many more ways for the other bears and whoever the bears were rescuing to interact. It was backstory, and it was above and beyond the primary plot and the conflict. It was a whole secondary thing going on. And I said, so it's my favorite. And she was saying, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And I said, no, the difference, of course, is that he's my favorite because I got to do so much with him. And she said, what about the other bears? And I said, well, Wish Bear was wistful. And I'm not really into wistful myself. They're in the dictionary under Viking, one of the descriptive words of Vikings is not wistful. Just saying. So one of the lines that I kind of enjoyed doing was, I wish they'd let me finish, because in my head I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to poke them in the ear. but a lot of little kids who were very shy really identified with Wish Bear. And so, hooray. And then Love a Lot Bear was just this, Amy Johnson doesn't know a soul in Peoria. I'm sending her some love. It was just a sweet, yummy, wonderful, smudgy, cudgy kind of character. So I did that, and Melissa's standing there, a little transfixed, and I said, how, is that okay? And she said, oh my God, yeah, that's great. And then we said a few more things, and I've completely deleted everything in my head, But I think we talked about the fact that we're going to see each other again in Ottawa in August at FanaticCon 3, or as I like to call it, Fanatic 40Con, because it's still my 40th anniversary. And people standing there watching that happen, that was a very interesting situation for them, because they didn't see a media personality, a radio guy, an interviewer, an entertainment show person interviewing a celebrity. They saw 2 celebrities talking who clearly were friends, and one celebrity and her cameraman suddenly reverting to fan and then jumping back into celebrity role in the moment. It's so cool to give people that opportunity to see that the wall is only there if you want the wall to be there. The wall doesn't have to be there. All we need to do is respect each other's boundaries. And the third story I want to tell you, well, good morning, Kevin. Good morning. How was your birthday? It was Kevin's birthday yesterday. He got spoiled rotten. Good for you. And this is a third, is it third? Fourth. This is the fourth iteration of a person stepping out of the shadows and into the connection and the conversation and the engagement. So a fellow came along, kind of standing there grinning, and I saw him out of the corner of his eye while I was, get a picture with people, and they brought their kids, and so we're all doing stuff and posing, and I'm putting feather boas on little kids, and it's just really fun. And I kept out of the corner of my eye noticing that this guy was standing there. And at one point, when I was signing some things for people and putting purchases in a bag and kind of walking them around the table to show them all the stuff, if you're a Care Bear fan, we have these things as collectibles and souvenirs and special because this is the 40th anniversary things. And then this is my Abby stuff, and then this is the You Can't Do It on Television. So I'm just kind of chatting with them. And anyway, I finally turned to him and I said, hi. And he said, hi. And he said, I heard you talking to that other person about the Fame book. And I said, oh, yeah. It's kind of a weird experience, working with people when they were children and then getting on the phone with them when they're adults and getting a chance to have a conversation about how they felt about our shared experience, our relationship from X number of years ago. And he said, yeah. He said, I was listening to all of it. And I said, is there something I can interest you in? And he stopped and he kind of took a breath and he said, you were my childhood. And I said, well, thank you. You Can't Do That on Television meant a lot to people. He said, yeah, I mean, Mom, the character. You were my childhood. I came today because I wanted to say hi. I said, you wanted to say hi to your childhood? And he said, yeah, that sounds real weird. And I said, well, I guess I have to ask you the question then. And I just flipped my voice into Mom and I said, now then, young man, are you wearing clean underwear? He burst out laughing. He said, just for you, Mom, just for you. And then that's when the real change happened. I had surprised him, and he laughed, and the laugh got rid of the stuff. And he said, okay, so I need the book. And can I get a wristband? And what else do you have? And so I didn't pitch about the book because he had been there watching me talk to other people about the book and what it meant to me. And I had, I opened the book all the time, and I flipped through and, I find a page where I think the picture is really interesting. And I said, for instance, there's Matthew, right? There's Matthew doing things as a kid and then doing things as an actor, as an adult. And people are blown away. So I had already done that. He'd already seen me do it. And so he'd already sold himself on having the book. He didn't need the book. He could have got something. We had coasters with Mom on it. I said, wow, thank you. And he said, listen, you wrote the book. You went to a lot of trouble to write that book. And I want to share in that. I want to share in something that means so much to you. And he bought the book. And I said, you're never going to be a spectator again. And he said, oh, I know. I can't wait. And I said, you should come to Ottawa. I'm going to be there in August. And he said, yeah, will you be back? And I said, oh, yeah. And we have plans for Cornwall in April. So you're going to be sick of me by the time this is over. And he wandered away all happy. And a couple of times I saw him, and as he was walking by, he would wave, and I would wave back. That was a complete exercise in pivotry. Not just pivoting, pivotry. Were you wondering when I was going to get to that? So here's the thing that happens to people with pivotry, with these moments. They come with an expectation, and they see the experience through their different filters. And as you know, they have these different brains that try to make sense of the messages they're getting through these different filters. And then they get to decide which part of them they're going to step into to connect or not. Because whether they connect or they turn and walk away, they still need a personality that is going to do that. So all day, we saw that happening. With this guy, we saw him choose fan and then friend. And how he came, the filter he came through, was his social interaction, his cultural filter. You know, there's 5 filters, right? There's 5 dimensions that we all live in. There's the physical, how we position ourselves, how we, I'm taller than them and I'm rounder than them and I have more red hair than they do. Like, that's physical. And then there's emotional. I'm happier or sadder or more anxious or confused. And then there's mental or intellectual. I'm thinking this and I'm thinking that and I'm figuring out what to say. That's intellectual. And the social is where I belong in the tribe, where they belong and where I belong and how we connect in the tribe. That's social. The last one that I think is the most fascinating, because it happened with every single person, was the 5th dimension that we all work on. And you can call it spiritual or you can call it energetic, but really what I feel that it is, it's how we resonate. You know, when you're trying to tune a piano and you get a tuning fork and you go bong, and then you hit the note and it goes bong, and we hear the resonance and they're connected. When we meet people and we don't resonate and you get this off feeling, that's bad energy, that's bad resonance. We're not on the same wavelength at all. So the people who were excited and happy were on my wavelength. They were either connecting to me socially, tribally, or they were looking at it from an emotional perspective, or they were choosing not to connect. The young girls who were dancing, they were in a bubble, and the dance and the music and their heads down and they're doing things, that was their protection. They were giving permission to the music and their dancing to be the way they warded off things that might frighten them. On the other hand, we had the volunteers at the show bouncing around, racing over, hugging, kissing on the head, saying, "I love you, Mom," and running away. I don't even know what dimension that is. I just know that it's awesome. It might even be the 6th dimension. Who knows? So we all connect in those ways. And when we deliberately choose to shift from the one that was our comfort zone to one that isn't our comfort zone, when we use a part of the brain we didn't realize we were going to use to make that shift, and when we step in to a place that is not familiar to us because we are willing to risk what might happen that's bad in favor of all the incredible things that can happen that are good, that is an ability that human beings have exclusively. That's pivotry. And when we see people doing it in the moment, I'm so tempted to rush up and say, I want to interview you for the book, but it's the wrong time because they're already kind of juggling 11 or 12 or 46 flaming chainsaws, and I don't want to overload them. I'll tell you the other thing that was lovely, kind of as a last story today, was that the incredibly lovely, fabulous, wonderful couple who create and run the Cape event in Cornwall, Ontario, Randy Sauvé and Carol Sauvé came to Brockville. They wanted to support Brockville. They wanted to support Lance and the crew and all the vendors. And they wanted to see the Brockville turnout, because we're all in this together. You know, these people who produce these events, the people who love these events, are people who are vendors too. Randy has a comic book store. Carol does wedding events, and they love their community, and they want to be part of making people glad they came. So they're collectors, they're fans, they have booths at events themselves, and so they just gradually moved up the chain. And for the past, I'm not sure how many years it is now. I don't think it's 10, but it's closing in on it. They've been running this event in Cornwall to bring people, bring celebrities, to enrich the community, to wake people up, to give people a reason to say, I love it here. We always love it here. We always come to this. So when they showed up at my booth, and I said, and there we are. And now as spectators, you don't have to do all the work. Come and have your picture taken. And I flang boas around them, and we did our poses, and I said, so I want to talk to you about next year, because I have an idea. And Randy said, I'm going to go off and do this. Carol will take care of all the creative thing. And she said, what is it? I can't wait. So I told her, and I said, I don't want you to say anything right now. I want you to go away and think about a creative way to say no. But here's my idea. It's different and fun and outrageous. And the whole idea is to engage people in a way that, so far from what I could see at your event, they're not engaging. It's like a little hole in the fabric. And if we plug that hole, I think it's going to be a huge success. It's a power vacuum. And she said, I love it. And I said, no, go away and come back. And she said, no, I love it. I need to think, and I need to talk to Randy. And I said, so here are some, some caveats, some drawbacks, some things that obviously are logistics that have to be taken care of. And I explained them to her. And she said, yeah, and she's sifting and sorting possibilities while she's talking to me. And she said, I'll be back. So they went away and did their thing. Periodically, they were kind of facing me when they were doing something else, and I waved, and they went back. And the next thing I knew, I don't know, a couple hours later, she was back. They were both back. And I said, hi, are you here to tell me no? Make me burst into tears? And Carol said, no, I have a really good idea. And Randy's big grin. And she told me their really good idea. And I said, oh my God. Oh my God. And people are stopping. People who have been to Cape, who know who they are, other vendors, are seeing them coming back to see me a second time. And I'm oh my godding, and they're laughing, and they're kind of leaning in, trying to listen to what's going on here. Because, here we are at Fanaticon, and we're talking Cape. What's going on? And we're sort of dancing up and down and laughing and having a wonderful time, big hugs, and they went away. And two of the cosplayers came over and said, so what was that about? And I said, oh, you want to know? You can't tell anybody. So, ruin the secret. So I told them. And they both got all excited and said, oh, yeah, I want to be, we need to be part of that. We need to be part of that. Yeah, okay. So you know what? I'll message you because we're on Facebook today. I'll message you and we'll talk about it, okay? Yeah, because we need to be part of that. And they all went away with their brains turning because they, as cosplayers, were spectators once. As cosplayers, they become participants who know firsthand how to engage other spectators and make it a friendly experience for them. My idea, seeing how animated and excited Carol and Randy were, they wanted to be in on that too, because the only thing better than excitement is more excitement, right? And then their brains were turning, and sure enough, first thing the next day, first thing Monday morning, bazang, I'm getting messages from them saying, so, hey, remember me? We were talking about this. So how I think, to wrap this up, how I think we get back to a place where we feel safe. Not back to life the way it was 2.5 years ago, but back to solid ground, is by owning that ground, by standing firmly on it and saying, how you doing? I'm walking here. Owning, no longer spectating, no longer looking from a distance, no longer wondering why the remote isn't working and I can't shut it off. As we can own it, we can feel pride, we can feel comfortable, we can feel connected, we can feel like we belong, and we can take all the precautions that we need to in order to maintain the feeling of safety. And every chance we have to change the conversation, to give people an opportunity to see themselves and us as in it together, not separated by this invisible wall. When the front desk person asks me routine question number 6, and because he's reading the form, and is your credit card, does it end in the numbers thing, and thing? And I say, oh, yes. Oh my goodness, you're a mind reader. Do you know my height above sea level as well? Cracked up everybody else because I broke all the rules. The poor guy, what? Because he's filling in a form. What was the purpose in doing that? Making a friend. The guy behind me, who was, auditioning to be my manager, I hope they provide free wine. You're hired. The other check-in person at the desk, laughing, said, I love that. It's yours. Just credit me. All of a sudden, I have friends. The fellow who was checking me in will always remember me because I confused the living daylights out of him. And the other 2 people will remember me because we actually connected unexpectedly. And once you connect, you can't erase it. As one of my beautiful, talented, genius children said in the book, and by the way, have I mentioned that it's available on Amazon? She said, you can always be a has-been. You can never be unfamous. Do you know why you can never be unfamous? I'll tell you. Because we can never erase the way other people feel about us, the way other people take ownership of the memory moment they have with us. And as I said last week in one of my videos, what I do at my booth, Lance actually commented on this. He said, people have no idea who you really are. They have no idea why you really come. And I said, well, don't tell them. What I really do is I bring people into the present. And I invite them to bring their childhood memory along with them, so that who they remember me as and how that connects to who they were becomes alive and well today, right now, with them as they are. I help them stitch together their past and their present with a feel-good moment, and then I invite them to be excited, to look forward to the infinite possibilities in the future. especially if they choose to share it with me. Liking strategy 101. It's cool, isn't it? That's why I have the best time. That's why I don't look tired. Oh yes, sorry. There is one other. Spectator moment. So I'm standing there beside my table. So I don't know if you've seen the picture of this one, but so table, Abby, and then to my right, the lockers. And at the far end of the lockers from me is the mannequin I have with the mom costume and the mom face. So mom, lockers, Abby stuff, and behind me on the wall, a wall-sized caricature of me. So it's Abby overload, really. Anyway, I'm standing there. And this person comes along, and they're standing staring at the lockers, like this. And he says to his wife, "I love that show." And she said, "Yes, I know." And so I stepped forward, and I said, "What's that? You love the show?" And he said, he looked at me like I'm some nosy neighbor, and he said, "Yeah." And I said, and did you love Mom? And I point to Mom, and he said, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Well, that's wonderful to hear." And he said, "Why? What's it to you?" I said, "Pardon?" He said, "Well, who are you?" And I said, "I'm Abby Hagyard." And he said, "No, you're not." And I said, And so I walked. So, and by the way, it was the picture of the lockers that has me leaning out through the middle pointing. It's a picture of me at the setup of the lockers at one point. So it's me standing beside me. So I stood there and I pointed to it, and he's staring at me. And then I took 3 steps over to the mom mannequin, and I put my face up against the picture of me, and I said, "Sad but true." And he said, "No." And I said, "Would you like to see my driver's license?" And he said, "Seriously?" And I said, and he said, "But how?" And I looked at his wife, and she said, "Oh, believe me, you have no idea what it's like to live with him." And I said, "Come here, young man." And I took him by the arm, and we walked over to the table. I said, "You need a You Can't Do That on Television wristband." And I handed it to him, and he said, and then I have the cast picture. And I held the cast picture up with his mom in it, and I said, "See?" And I said, "You see where it says Mom?" And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "Oh." And I thought, I don't even know what to say about that, except that he was so invested in that remaining as his past that it didn't matter until I, bludgeoned him to death. It didn't matter how much proof I gave him. He would not connect the dots. And when he finally did, he said, "Oh my God, I must look like an idiot." And I said, "No, you look like a fan who has a very, very big heart and a big love for our show. And I'm very grateful." And it was so cool. It was so hysterically funny. And I mean, flattering that he couldn't. No. So in these times, in these coming back out, timid wee creatures coming out of our caves and wondering if it's safe now, in these times, the one thing we need to do is be a little forgiving. Forgiving ourselves for saying and doing incredibly dumb things. Like saying it and then hearing yourself and thinking. And forgiving other people for getting it wrong, hanging on to something because it's the last solid thing they remember. These things are not supposed to divide us. They're supposed to bring us together so that we say, oh my God, you too, and laugh. That's what it's for. So, long video today, Kel Surprise. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you. Where's the real happy? Oh, Steve. I want to thank you for choosing to prioritize this in the middle of a day. And for those of you who are seeing this at a later time because your schedule doesn't permit, I want to thank you for enjoying the previous shows enough that you wanted to check out this one. I'm thrilled that you're helping me build my brand and build my tribe and build my audience and helping me pave the path to the next cool stuff. I'm really grateful. It means everything, because that's what this is all about: connecting, engaging, elevating, leveraging, supporting, and being glad we came. So you know the drill. Be good to you. You are very worth it. And remember to hug your loved ones, whether they are family loved ones, friend loved ones, acquaintance loved ones, people who went out of their way to pull you out of the path of danger, friends, whoever they are. Hug them. They deserve it. And I'll see you on Thursday.